What's up, good people? Welcome to the studio. Hey, if Greta Van Fleet can do like Led Zeppelin songs, I'm just going to write Van Halen style songs because I dig doing that and it's fun. So thanks to my friend Blair Cinta for playing drums on that track at the beginning. This is a video about some stuff from Warm Audio, some terrific sounding microphone preamps, as well as mics, because Blair actually played the drums in that track at the beginning of the video using some Warm Audio microphones like their 67 style mic, their 47 Junior mic, as well on kick, and it sounded really, really great. So we'll visit with him in a little bit and see exactly what he was doing on the drum kit to record those cool sounding drum parts. I was using both of these Warm Audio pre's right here, the W12 500 series style pre, as well as this standalone one up here. And I had two mics on a cabinet out in the other room, my old Marshall late 70s cab, at a 57 on one speaker and a 421 on the other speaker, and I blended them both down to one track. Now, in my studio, I've got a few different mic pre's that I use all the time. I use these API pre's right here. They're two 312 style pre's in this A2D API unit. Sometimes I use BAEs as well. I've got a couple of 1073 style pre's here, as well as I've got a 6176 here from Universal Audio. So at different times, you know, I'll use the different microphone pre's, but generally speaking, my favorites on guitar are API style pre's. And the reason is they're just really fast, they're really clear, there's an aggressive quality to them, they're really punchy, and that contrasts a little bit with like the Neve thing. To me, like the 1073 style Neve pre's, or real 1073 pre's, they've got a warm, big bottom end, kind of, I don't want to say fuzzy when you drive them, but they're a little less quick and a little less like in your face than the API style pre's. And I always remember actually when somebody that I really trust, I was asking them, a producer, engineer, about what to get for my first sort of cool studio setup at home that I had going way back, like, you know, 15, 16, 17 years ago, something like that. And he said, don't F around, just get, you know, APIs. I always remember that. So I did. I got this API right here, this A2D, and I've used that ever since. So fast forward, here we are, 2021. Warm Audio makes all kinds of great stuff, and they've come up with a much less expensive version of a really similar preamp circuit. So that's what they were going for with the WA12, was a classic, you know, that classic sort of 312 style circuit. I'm not sure exactly how close they are, but the folks at Warm Audio asked me to check it out. And since I'm like kind of intimately familiar for so many years now recording my guitars to the API style pre's, I thought I would compare and see how they compare. And sure enough, when I hook these up, I mean, it's a really, really familiar sound to me. And I think they do a really commendable job of coming very, very close to that style of tone. So what I did was I played all the parts on that track at the beginning of the video through the WA12s. The 57 was going through this one up here, and then the 500 series had a 421 going through it. Blended those down to one track. And what I want to do now is actually show you what the same guitar part sounds like going through my APIs. We can compare. I'll just solo the part outside of the mix using both these pre's and then using both these pre's, and you can listen. Now, I had to try and match the levels as close as I could for the two microphones because I'm blending them both down to one track, but I think I got really close. And the tracks overall are within a dB of one another. And so I just want you to listen really close and see if you can hear any difference in between these two guitar parts, one of them cut with the WA12s and one of them cut with the API 312 style pre's. Okay, here we go. So I think they compare really, really favorably. You know, was able to get really close to the same sound, I think, using the WA12s as my 312s down here. Now, having a great front end for your recordings is so important these days, I find, because you're not getting any like gooey tape coloration. We're all recording digitally these days. So having a great mic pre and a really high quality good microphone and just a good sounding source is more important than ever, I think. And so it's nice that Warm Audio has these great pre's that you can get to kind of front end your recordings and get some really, really cool tones, straight up at the front of everything before mixing, before adding any plugins and all that stuff. You want to make sure that you've got a nice, loud, clean, punchy, hot, and clear signal going into your DAW, into your interface, so that your recordings are right from the get-go cool, and you're not trying to fix like a bad recording later on using plugins or EQ or compression or something like that. So the layout on both of these, although they look a little different, it's the same controls. You've got an input and an output level control. You've got the tone switch here, which is actually an impedance control. And then you've got a polarity switch, you've got a pad, you've got a switch for 48 volt phantom power, of course, for condenser microphones. And then you got a high Z switch here that'll allow you to hit that, and then you can plug in an instrument and use it as a DI. So that's how I recorded the bass on the song at the beginning of the video. I plugged right into this WA12 right up here and bass straight in there, and then I added a cool SVT plug-in in my DAW and got a really cool bass tone, I think. So it'll work great as a DI as well. Let's check out the bass tone on that track soloed outside of the mix. Let's check out Blair Cinta now and how he recorded the drums using some of the Warm Audio pre's as well as some Warm Audio microphones.
Hey everyone, my name is Blair Cinta. I'm going to explain to you how I got this kind of Alex Van Halen drum sound with 4 Warm Audio mics. The WA14s, a pair of those in overheads, the WA67 as a mono overhead, and the WA47 Junior as the bass drum mic. This is the WA47 Junior on bass drum. It's in an Omni pattern. Right now it has the 10 dB cut being utilized. I have it a few inches away from the bass drum here, and the bass drum has nothing in it, so we get that really kind of raucousy, wide open Alex Van Halen kind of sound. Especially in the early days, I found he has a really kind of knocky sound. There's also a wood bass drum beater on here, which really helps bring this sound together to match that kind of Van Halen-y thing. This is the WA67 on mono overhead. This is on a 10 dB cut, and it's really focused on the snare in the cardioid pattern just to bring this out. So there's no snare mic, and the snare, of course, has some tape on it. It's a Ludwig Supraphonic, and that tape helps get that kind of boxy-ish Alex Van Halen sound, which is really signature to him. It's definitely a hard thing to match. A lot of it's in his hands. But you can kind of get there with that Supraphonic and that black dot head and some tape on there. So it's dry, but still kind of open and honky sounding. It's a very unique sound. The WA14s are in an Omni pattern also. A lot of the key to this Van Halen sound is really just a roomy overhead sound. The 67 there is doing a lot of the work for the snare sound, and the WA14s are doing the work for the cymbals and the toms and just that overall sound. You definitely need Alex Van Halen, to truly get that, because he's such a unique player. But trying to capture the vibe does really well with these Warm Audio mics, these 4 Warm Audio mics, just with the proper tuning, pick the right drums. And WA14s on the overheads, WA67 on the mono overhead, getting that snare, and the WA47 Junior on the bass drum. This is how I have my WA412 set up for the sound. I have the two WA14s going through mic pre's 1 and 2. I'm running them with the tone control in, which the more I use this mic pre, I like that tone control in. I feel like, that's getting more the desired sound I want, with changing the ohms, and just a nice balanced sound through those two. The WA Junior is going through mic pre 3. Again, I have the tone control in, flip the phase there, and have the pad in. And the 67 is going through mic pre 4. Same thing, tone control in. I'm finding that just to be a nice, it's just a little more cleaner sound that I'm enjoying. And polarity flip there, and that's pretty much it. It's a very basic setup. Really digging this mic pre with the inputs and outputs. I'm not overdriving anything for this sound. As you can see, the inputs are fairly low, as well as the outputs, and it's just a nice clean tone through these WA412s.
Okay, so there's a couple different things that you can do to actually switch up the tone on these WA12 mic pre's, and one of them, the primary one actually, is switching the input impedance of the microphone pre, and they give you a 2-position switch to do that. Now, this is really a matter of taste, okay? You try it with the microphone that you've got, be a dynamic mic, a condenser mic, or a ribbon microphone. You may prefer one position or the other of this tone switch right here. So this one right here, and on the WA12 500 series, you've got one as well. Exact same controls on both these pre's. So the tone switch, when you push it in, you're going to get a 6 dB bump, and so you may want to compensate via either the input or the output level controls on the pre to determine which sound you like better, because of course we always hear louder as better, so it's like you can just bump up the output level of the pre if you take that switch out and try and kind of match the volume so that you can just listen to the tone that you're hearing, because switching impedance really changes up the tone. With dynamic mics and condenser microphones, this is what Warm Audio says, you might like the position of the switch in, and if you're using a ribbon microphone, generally speaking, you might like it out, okay, due to the different impedances of dynamic, condenser, and ribbon microphones. Let's take a listen to it actually in both positions. I'm playing through my Marshall 72 GMP right now with a much lower gain, kind of more controlled sound than I use for that track at the beginning of the video. So this is the way it sounds. Yeah, and pretty much I do prefer the sound of the switch in, and this is an SM57 I'm using right now. So that's the louder position, but it wasn't just the volume, because I went and tried to volume match using the output on the mic pre. It's just with the SM57 it seems to have a little bit fuller tone through the mids or something. So I would recommend using that with most dynamic microphones. But once again, your mileage may vary, and it's okay to switch. That's why they call it tone rather than impedance. I think impedance controls on mic pre's can sometimes be confusing, and I thought it's pretty cool they called it tone. It's actually just a different tone, and either one is valid with the switch in or out. So the other thing you can of course do is drive the microphone pre up harder to change the sound of the pre, and turn the output control down. You can turn it up until the point that you hear audible clipping if you want to. So usually what I like to do with microphone pre's, if I'm setting input and output level, I'll turn up until I hear some audible distortion, then I'll back down 3 or 4 dB, maybe even a little more on guitar. Some instruments sound good with distortion on the mic pre, like, kick and snare can sound pretty cool if you drive mic pre's really hard. But on guitar, yeah, generally speaking, I don't like the sound of like obvious clipping from the electronics and the microphone pre on electric guitar that much. So I'll listen really closely after recording. And by the way, a little tip: it's sometimes helpful to like play a little bit once you've set the levels, and then listen back really quietly to the sound, and that way I can just hear better. Like, you know, I'll solo out the guitar and I'll just listen really, really closely to the guitar and make sure I'm not hearing any kind of on the top or any kind of audible strange clipping, and then I'll back the pre down a little bit if I do. That's just a little technique that I use. I can hear it better with the track really quiet, and sometimes through headphones I can hear the clipping easier that way. But anyways, it's nice that they give you the input level and the output level control, so you can experiment with, you know, driving the mic pre up and getting some different tones, because it will change the sound. And of course, depending on your input source, you know, it'll change drastically. So anyways, it's nice to give you the input and output volume controls there, so that you can vary you know, the level of both and experiment with driving the pre up harder if you want to, and that really gives you a different tonal character. Thanks for watching my video on the WA12 Warm Audio microphone preamps. Both the 500 series version and the standalone version are terrific sounding, great discrete microphone preamps. Sound really great on guitar, obviously sound really good on drums. It was great on bass DI as well. These are just really, really good recording tools that don't cost an arm and a leg and help you get a terrific, great front-end sound into your recording interface and into your DAW. So you can check them out further at the link in the video description below. Click down there, it'll take you to all the information about the Warm Audio WA12 pre's, as well as all the other cool gear from Warm Audio. They make all kinds of cool stuff: compressors, mic pre's, microphones, great tools for the recording musician, as well as guitar pedals. They got some cool guitar pedals that I've done a couple videos for already. Please hit subscribe. If you haven't hit the little bell beside the subscribe, you will get an alert when I put out a new video. Hey, thanks for watching. I am Pete Thorne. Happy recording. Over and out. See ya.